What is the biggest separator between you and the crown chakra?
So Kulpreet says our thoughts. NS says trauma. Relu says Brian. Oh, brain. Sorry. I was like, who's Brian and why is he coming in the way of crown chakra and you spell check? I think she's mentioned. I think Relu means brain. Excuse me. Kulpreet says disconnected from ourselves. Parul says stress and blocking due to threats. Minoti says our limiting beliefs and low vibrating thoughts. Trupti says emotions. Grishma says I feel it's our beliefs. Kanisha says your heart. Indira says brain. Namrata says everything opposite of love. Hansa says overthinking. Dipali says blocked sacral. Harneet says illusion. DB says loneliness. Dipti says mental blocks. Gulshan says our old limiting belief systems and stress. Yogita says fear and doubt. Reena says self-doubt. Anjali says ego. Richa says subconscious. Again, a huge, and Minoti is also saying logical mind. Such a vast range of responses.
True.
And everyone's been different.
Correct. However, the answer was given yesterday in as many words as an exact answer to this question. So two of you all came very close because that word is a compound of what we're going to mention, but one of y'all said it. Yogita,
fear and doubt.
Fear and doubt. Now, doubt is only a indication of fear. The answer is fear. And when fear shows up, see, there's a journey to fear. The journey to fear is that anxiety, trepidation, nervousness, overwhelm, panic, constantly worrying, agitation, restlessness, irritation, annoyance, frustration, anger, hatred, resentment, bitterness, grief, sorrow, pain, illness, disease. But it all begins with fear. For those of y'all, for those two of y'all. So by the way, Yogita, Yogita gets a speedster lightning session.
I was just waiting. I said, I know this is going to come up. I'm waiting for you to finish your explanation. If you hadn't mentioned, I would have brought it up.
Thank you.
Yogita.
Stress is a compound of at least 10, 15 fears, 3, 5 angers, and 2, 3 griefs. So stress is huge. And stress, of course, plays a role. But even stress began as fear. Fear is also what disrupts the root chakra. So the moment your root chakra has gone off now in fear, what will your crown chakra do? Because the instruction for action moves down to the root. Your crown chakra cannot then anchor in the body. And the moment that distance and disruption takes place, well, that two-way street can start looking like a pile-up. It can, and depending on how far the stress has gone, how much anger and inflammation has shown up, how much disconnection, by the way, is a function of anger and hatred. We disconnect in hatred, we separate in fear. Tell me, what happens when you are afraid? What happens when you have fear? Tell me some of the symptoms you go through. What shows up when you are fearful? And everybody else who mentioned limiting beliefs, did somebody mention judgments? You're all absolutely correct. And all of them begin in fear. Judgments ultimately can become very inflammatory. They become about the rightness of me. I have decided how it's going to be. I'm not going to change my mind. Becomes a very fixed, rigid, inflexible decision. But everything begins in fear. So you're right, but we are going to take a look at judgments and limiting beliefs. But first, what happens when you have fear?
So people have written in Nidhu. Gulpreet says anxiety. Indira says palpitation. K says indecisiveness. Haneet says lose control. Indira says anxiety. Relu says panic. Dipali says go into survival mode.
Excellent.
Gulshan says anxiety. Indira says anger. Vaishali says numb. Anjali says freeze. Indira says pity. Vandana says all the chakras get blocked. Josie says shut down. Again, Indira says unworthy, anxiety and numbness, says Kulpreet. Anxiety and defensive, says Parul. Solar plexus gets contaminated, says Shailu. And fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fidget, says Malvika. Namrata says anxiety, nervousness, irritation. Dipti says overthinking, anxiety, panic, and withdrawn. And Priyanka says anxiety leading to fight or flight. Rishma also says you start controlling.
Excellent.
Anxiety is like a lot of anxiety.
A lot of anxiety, and also you're not familiar that this belongs to the family of fear. Palpitations, the anxious feeling, a pukey feeling. You know, palms get clammy, but throat gets dry. And mostly what ends up happening in fear, again, absolutely, fight or flight. But when we first learned fear, we didn't have the option to fight or flee. Therefore, what started showing up was a freeze. You don't know what to do. How many times have you been faced with a crisis and you get paralyzed? Indecision is a form of paralysis. Overwhelm is a form of paralysis. Anxiety, and so much anxiety, is a form of paralysis. You don't know what to do next. Paralysis, by the way, is connections are not connecting. And the next thing you know, what is taking place is you're constantly worrying in a loop without knowing how to get out of it. You're putting up with rubbish behavior. You're letting people do whatever they want with you because you don't want them to leave. People pleasing, flattery. How many of you use flattery in order to soothe and calm the tyrant in your life? You end up using survival tactics, manipulation, controlling, passive aggressive, very peaceful, and then suddenly you are Chandi. When we start moving towards a brain paralysis, the area that is getting completely impacted is this area. Remember what I said, this is the place of your buddhi. You need buddhi, right? Like we have this term in India, right? Buddhi brushed. Like, and then you bang your head like that. Buddhi brushed. This, by the way, is a very healing movement. And it's one of the things we do in our brain work. It's very healing because this also starts opening up this part of your prefrontal cortex. So very gently, let's just do this. Just very gently, and just for a few seconds. The point is that when this is not working, then what is working? The hindbrain. The hindbrain is the brain closest to your spine, and your hindbrain is the reptilian brain. And by the way, it's the reptilian brain because it is the brain reptiles have. Meaning, it is now your primal instinct that is taking over. No great answers are going to come out of this. No great solution is going to come out of this. When the brain goes into paralysis, relationships start getting worse or they fall apart. Emotional debt, also known as guilt, and financial debt start to pile up. These are the three indicators of love paralysis. And it all begins with your brain not functioning properly. What are we going to do? We are going to bring in the exa brain and take a look. Intuitively, please tell me, how paralyzed are you in your life right now on a scale of 0 to 100? Now, wait, let me reverse the order of this. Okay, yeah. 0 is not at all, and 100 is very high. If you're going to ask me, okay, but in which area? This is a fragmentation. Your road is chopped up. Give me one number for how paralyzed you feel. Don't write it yet, but make a note of it. Write it on a sheet of paper if you want. All right? Ready for exa brain, people? Yes?
People have started writing it. I think they'd already started writing it before you said don't need to write it. So it's coming in. It's okay. People, let it come in. Let it come in. It's, right, Nidhu? It's peaceful.
Absolutely. Let it come in. The reason I ask you all not to write is because after, when I ask you where were you and where are you now, it's easier to put the number there, because now you will have to write the number again and let me know where you have reached. Only reason. But if you've started writing, please write. Let me give you a few seconds.
Do you want to know any of the numbers right now, Nidhu?
No, not at all. It is small, it is big, it is medium. You're going to see what happens once we have our brain, exaflopped our brain.
Nidhu, while people are still writing this in, you said, the love paralysis. You mentioned three things. There was the emotional debt, the financial debt. What was the third one?
Relationships start getting worse and falling apart. Like there's a steady decline in relationships. Ready, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think people are more or less, it's still coming in, but yes, ready.
Okay. Have some water.
And I don't know if you can hear him, but I think DJ's also sent you a number.
Hello, DJ.
Outside the door. But at the moment you said, give me a number. So he went with his, so I said, I don't know if you, so he's also sent you a number.
Got it, 46. But we couldn't hear him back, so yes. Okay. I'm just going to say some decrees, and you're just going to receive and react, respond. Brain, 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 your brain, your brain, your brain, your brain, your brain, your brain, the 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 exaflops brain, the exaflops brain, the exaflops brain, the exaflops brain, the exa brain, the exa brain, the exa brain. Integrating, 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 the love, the love, the love, your love, your love, your love, your love, the exaflops love, the exaflops love, the exaflops love, the exa love, the exa love, the exa love, the exa love, integrating, 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 integration in progress. It will stay for however long it needs to. 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, it will continue to work. Take your time. There's no hurry. Let there be at least 1 minute of silence. Take longer if you need to. Check your intuitive number for paralysis. Brain paralysis, fear paralysis, love paralysis, money paralysis, relationship paralysis, job paralysis, whatever it was, that number was indicating. Take a look at that number now. Tell me how it was then. Tell me how it is now.
Give the comparison. So please do write the original number again. So many of you have written it, and it's going to be a little difficult for me to keep going up to check what your original number was. And I want to share this, Nidhu, because how can I not? This, so I was fluctuating between two numbers. I went to one number and then another number came to mind. And at that very instant is when he barked. So, sorry, lump in my throat. So he gave you the number that was very close to my first number. So yeah, I'm even in the processing, lump in my throat, definitely emotional, definitely tears, coming home.
Correct. Coming home.
So I'm going to go off video and I'm going to call out people's numbers so that you also do it.
Nidhu's my sister, people, when she cries.
But this is a good one. This is good. These tears are always good. With the decrees, the tears are definitely good, because while this has never been said before, and it came up yesterday and now it comes up again today, you're going home. You're coming home.
Returning home.
Returning home. So, right. And with that, let me quickly give you the numbers. There is, all right. So Vaishali went from 70 to 32. Indira went from 85 to 20. Deborah went from 99 to 48. Priyanka went from 78 to 48. Nilesh went from 7 to 0. Josie went from 90 to 30. Vandana went from 90 to 70. Anjali from 30 to 0. Gulpreet from 80 to 10. Excuse me, Vaishali from 72 to 32.
Who's the one who went to 0?
Nilesh went from 7 to 0. Anjali went from 30 to 0. And he's so Nilesh 7 to 0, Anjali 30 to 0.
Excellent. But Anjali is traveling this month. Are you that Anjali who put it up on the Telegram group?
I think so. Anjali Vyas, right? I think she's the one. I think so, yes. But we'll get confirmation from her.
And so sorry to interrupt, Ma. But Indira, you have made excellent progress. I want you to check the darkness that you had seen in the two-way street and tell me how that's looking as well. Go ahead.
I think Trupti had seen the light and black. Yeah.
I think Trupti had also seen, correct. Trupti had also seen, but Indira had also indicated some darkness somewhere. Yes, both Indira and Trupti, correct.
Vaishali 72 to 32, Dipali 70 to 50. Trupti has gone from 60 to 20.
Oh, Trupti, please check as well. 60 to 20 is fantastic. I mean, this is very good receiving of light. Excellent. It's excellent. Take a look at the road, at the two-way street.
Malvika has gone from 70 to 30, especially financial. Relu also says 0, but original numbers not there. PSA, sorry, that's how the name's showing up. From 75 to 65, Dipali says tears. Grishma says from 80 down to 20. Nishi, thank you. Nishi has sent big hugs, and Parul has also said, Nidhu, we love it. Thank you. And because of you, Nidhu, I receive so much love because of you.
We'll start calling again, people. So
Namrata says, was 75, 45 now. When you began, my left eye felt like stone. Seems better now. Reena is from 95 down to 90. Kenisha is from 100 to 60.
Excellent.
Janet 75 to 45. Sunita 60 to 47. Kenisha also says that I saw many visions from my childhood. Indira has written choking up, throat as if the throat is choking. Is it choking? Is it a choking feeling, or is it a lump in your throat that is letting you know that, let the tears out? I'm just asking because when you're overwhelmed with tears, it sometimes feels like your throat is choking, like choking up.
And while you answer that, Indira, Kinisha, how is the heaviness? Is the heaviness in the head lesser? How's your sense of connection with the body?
Okay. And Anjali has said yep. So she said a yes to confirmation that she's the same. Sonal has said 90 to 78, 90 to 80. Gulshan says 77, no change in headache. I did have light and dark street as well. Richa has gone from 50 to 20. Trupti is written, it's all gone, turning, it's all brighter.
Good.
Trupti was another one. Yeah.
Super.
Indira has also said right side more brighter, left side is gray now.
Good. So it's diffusing itself. Excellent. Excellent. Isn't this amazing? Light will do everything.